Hey, welcome to the Flamingo Advantage podcast. I'm so excited to have one of my favorite people in the world with us today, someone who's been a mentor to me. We're going to be talking about live events and how to add that to your business strategy. Stay tuned. Welcome to the Flamingo Advantage podcast. I'm Katie Hornor, and I'm so excited to have with us one of my mentors today, somebody that I have been watching for years and years and years and years, finally got to work with. And when we did, it just exploded our business. This is someone who's been in the live event industry for years and then pivoted during COVID to take her genius to those who wanted to do virtual events online to still be able to reach their people and change the world. And she's done millions of dollars in business for people like Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi and other people that you well know. And I'm so excited to have her with us today and share her wisdom. So Bari Baumgardner, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me, Katie. So honored to be here.
I was watching you at live business events way back before COVID. And I remember that I had been to a couple of these industry marketing events and I kept noticing a certain person kind of in the periphery, right? And I was like, oh, she was at the last event. And then I've seen her at other events. And suddenly I realized, I think you went on stage to do some announcements or something. I was like, she's running this event. And at that point I was like, I need to work with her someday. And so I kept watching. And long story short, when you guys pivoted in COVID and you said, hey, we're going to take our training online, I was like, sign me up. I've got to, whatever she's doing, I want to be there. And it has completely transformed our business. We grew ×5 during COVID by instituting your strategies in our business. And I just couldn't be more grateful and excited to have you with us today.
Well, thank you. I mean, I love talking about live events. And, I think it's a really interesting thing when your entire business model implodes in basically 1 week, which is what happened during COVID. And you actually unearth something that's even better than what you had before. So even though, there's no way to lighten the impact of COVID, I mean, no way to minimize that. That's not the intent. But for us, it eliminated so many different opportunities that we had to recreate a new one. And I'm actually a little grateful for that because I don't think we would have happened upon what I call the democratization of live events if COVID hadn't happened. And what I mean by that is courtesy of COVID, I think now we all have some amazing opportunities with Zoom and production studios in our own home. You can host your own live event from your living room now, which is a pretty amazing opportunity we didn't have before.
Yeah, and we have actually done that. We've hosted 9 or 10 virtual events of our own over the last 3 years, and our first 2 were from our bedroom. We literally moved the bed out, made the stage space, and did it from there. And it's so amazing that all you need is the right tech, not even a lot of tech, but just the right tech to be able to put this together. And you can literally do it from anywhere. You can create a stage space.
Well, and it doesn't have to be complicated tech. It could be, a Zoom monitor or a Zoom account, a TV, and a computer, and you're off and running. Where in the old days, 3 years ago, you would have had to go out and get a hotel at a food and beverage minimum and, a room block. So to not have to have that overhead, all that liability, all that angst around putting on your first or next live event and just be able to say, listen, I'm going to try this model out from my living room. The liability is so much lower and the flexibility is so much greater. There's really nothing holding you back. I think it's a really amazing moment in time for speakers and authors and course creators and influencers out there to be able to take advantage of this model and the opportunity to have what we call a purpose-driven payday, which is you can have impact and income, purpose and payday. And the fact that you can host a global event for 5, 50, 500, 5,000 or more from your living room or your bedroom is pretty amazing.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. And I love the fact that it is so versatile, even as it's virtual. And, you guys have obviously developed this and you have an amazing high-tech studio now where you can have people come into your studio and host a virtual event from there. But there are still people like me who are doing it with our Zoom account and our 2 computers from a room in our house. Now a room in our Airbnb that we turn into that space every time. But it's just been such an amazing way to reach the world with your message and a way to be able to offer what you do in a way that feels way more like service than we had the strategy to do before. And I know that service is really big on your heart as well.
Yeah. I mean, we often talk at Sage about a sales as service mentality, meaning serve hard and sell easy. And I really do think that most people want to be served, not be sold. And most of us want to serve, not sell. And so if you can use a model that allows you to serve hard and sell easy, then both things magically come together to serve both the host and the audience member. And, it's interesting. One of the reasons I love live events, you might be thinking, I mean, these days the lines get blurred. What's a live event? Is a webinar a live event? Is a challenge a live event? Is a launch a live event? Is a live launch a live event? But when I talk about live events, I'm really talking about a 3-day, which is a 3-day event designed to enroll people into a high ticket offer. And that really is the heart of service because people have more time with you. They get to spend more time. They get to relax into your content. They get to know themselves, you, and the community in a different way. They get to see opportunities they couldn't see before. There's only so much you can do in a webinar, only so much you can do in a challenge or a launch. They're both really important vehicles to introduce people to your method. But with a 3-day event, they get to really experience your method. They get to fall in love with your method. They get to start thinking, oh, wait, I can do this. Wait a minute, I think I will do this. The thing is, if I'm going to do this, I really could just use some help doing it. And it gives you the opportunity to say, well, strangely enough, I actually do that. Let me invite you to come along with me on this next step of the journey. And that's the heartbeat of a service-based mentality. You're bringing your audience to a place where they actually want what you have to deliver. And of course, it's just natural that you would invite them to take the next step with you. So service first, sales second.
Yeah, I love that. And we found with your using your strategy for those 3 days, it's like you said, it's the way to teach your method. But then when we make the offer, we're not just leaving them either. It gives us time to follow up, to answer their questions, to answer any objections that are coming up for them and help them to get to that place of clarity. Like, is this for me? Is it for me right now? And then
Yes.
helping them take that next best step for them in whatever that is. And
Well, and this
we
is
have
especially important, I think. Sorry to interrupt, but I think this is so important for the fact that I think every audience, it doesn't matter what niche you're in, what market you serve, what language you speak, which country you live in, who you're attracting in your global audience or your local audience, everyone's going to have objections. But people who, when you make your offer, but especially your logical buyers, I really believe that all audiences are made up of emotional buyers and logical buyers. And your emotional buyers tend to buy pretty quickly and easily. They've either been following you for a while, so they're a really warm or even a hot prospect, or maybe they heard your offer before, didn't act on it, but now they're ready, or they're just wired in that way. Meaning that I'm married to an emotional buyer. He's never met an offer he doesn't love, like they're looking for the next big thing to help them and they're willing to invest in themselves. It's a natural part of their routine. So they don't have the logical objections the logical buyer is going to have around time and money and spouse and fear and shame and self-doubt, the things that typically rear their ugly heads. Again, pretty universal, regardless of what market you're in, to have those 5 objections, time, money, spouse, fear, shame, and self-doubt come up once you make your offer. And logical buyers are going to want to go deep with you, asking questions so that they can work this out in their head before they say yes to themselves and then ultimately say yes to you.
I love that. I love that. If you're just tuning in on our video, I am talking with Bari Baumgardner of Sage Studios. You can connect with her at sagehub.com. But we're talking about virtual events, meaning online 3-day events to be able to sell a high ticket offer into your courses or programs or the service you provide. And this idea of being able to spend that much time with someone, to be able to overcome their objections, give them some steps to do right now for that quick win, it really is, I think, the heart of service that helps us to overcome. I think we're the ones who feel more like sales is sleazy or slimy, right? Like it doesn't, when we're concerned about that, I don't think it comes through that way. But this has really become a strategy to help us get over that ourselves so that we feel like we're coming from more of a service place and that it comes across that way to our people.
Well, and when it naturally evolves as part of the content you're teaching, I think when we start to feel as hosts, people, someone who's making a high ticket offer, I think when we start to feel salesy, it's because we are feeling this, it's time to make the pitch. It's time to make the offer. We have to switch into sales mode. And then all of a sudden we have to push a little bit harder because the sales almost coming out of nowhere. How many of you have been to events or even to a webinar where it was like kind of felt out of left field, you weren't prepared for it, then the host starts pushing really hard to try and get you to an answer and to a decision that does start to feel super salesy. But if you think of your business as a through line, and let me tell you what I mean by through line, this is how you naturally evolve to making the offer, I like to think of it as making the invitation to your audience to join you and going deeper. Whatever you're doing free, let's say it might be social media, it might be a podcast, it might be launches, challenges. That's the introduction to your method. It's to allow people to go, wait a minute, I had no idea you could do that. Katie, you could do that? I had no idea. Like, yeah, you can do that. In fact, there's a method for this. And then whatever you do low ticket, let's say it might be a course, it might be a book, might be, something, let's say $2,000 or less. That's what I think of as kind of the low ticket offer. And that's the method. That's you actually sharing your methodology. Like, here's the framework in a really easily consumable way for you to digest and start to apply it in your life. But wait, if you would like to experience this methodology, then join me for the live event, because, there's only so much I can do in a podcast or on social media, or even in a launch or a challenge. So, let me introduce you to my 3-day event where you're going to experience the method, and your right fit client, the person you're most meant to work with, is going to say, well, wait a minute, I loved what you did free. And so I invested in your low ticket offer, and I really love the content I got there. It's been amazing. I just want more. In fact, I'd like a little bit more hand holding, a little bit more service as I figure out this method. So to join you for 3 days to experience how this works, like I went from, can do that, to, wait a minute, I can do that. I'm going to embrace this to make this my own, to, wait, I have to go to that live event. I will do that. And then again, at your 3-day event, you can naturally evolve to a point through service where you're giving them amazing content and great information where they say, this is incredible. I know so much more than I knew before. But the thing is, I really would just love some accountability, some handholding. I'd like to cut a check for speed. I'd like to get there faster, simpler, and easier. Do you have any way for me to do that? And you're like, yes, I thought you would ask. In fact, you're crazy not to do this. Let me introduce you to my high ticket offer. And they're like, I am crazy not to do that, because I would get accountability. I would get speed. I would have support in implementing this method, because the reality is, now that I know your method, I want to master your method. And so now your invitation doesn't feel like something you're pushing on them. It feels like something you're inviting them to, which is a much better feeling for you, and for sure, a much better feeling for them.
I love that. And just the way that it feels so much more natural in giving them that next step. And I've heard you say before, like, I wouldn't be doing my job, I would not be doing you the service I should be if I don't offer you a next step for those who want it, right?
Yeah, I often look at that when students come to me and say, I would love to get my work out into the world, but the thing that's standing in my way is sales. Is there any way I can do this without having to sell? I'm just worried about looking too salesy, and I'm nervous about overcoming objections. And so is there any way around it? I'm like, well, first of all, I just want you to think about the fact that if you bring people into your world and they love what you're doing and they say, this is amazing, I want more. And you're like, that's all I've got. Like, you've got the method. I mean, you've got the method. Just go do the thing, do it. Good luck. You can do this, go. That's not nearly as service oriented as saying, I'm glad you asked. Like, we actually do have something exactly like what you're looking for. You know why? I've worked with so many right fit clients just like you. I know that this is about the point in the journey where you want additional support. And so I've designed a program to provide that to you, because I care that much about you and about your results and helping you get there. It's my life's work. If you'd like to join me on the journey, let me talk to you about how it works. And when we do that, it doesn't feel salesy at all. It's a natural extension of serving people we love to have already thought through the next step so that they don't have to go figure it out on their own. I think it feels way more yucky, way more icky to be like, good luck, just go do it.
Right. And I love the way that you all have put you exemplify this, because you also have an event where you're teaching people to run live events for their programs. And you also have a program that I've been in for the last 3 years to teach people how to run their events at a deeper level. So tell us about your event coming up, because I think it's so cool that you are doing exactly what you are training other people to do, and completely, whether we catch on to it or not, right? Like, you're doing it at such a meta level. Tell us about the event that you have coming up.
Yeah, thank you for asking. And what's really interesting is, for the first 17 years of our business, everything was done for you. And so we were known as the go-to resource for producing in-person live events. And, for being honest, it was not an insignificant investment to have us produce your event for you, soup to nuts. Like, we did everything A to Z. And what we heard a lot of times was people saying, much like you watched us producing live events, this is amazing. I wish I could afford to do this with you. And, the reality is, when you're producing an in-person live event, you're traveling to an in-person live event, there's only so many events you can do in a year. We were on the road about 42 weeks a year before COVID hit. So when COVID hit, not only did we pivot to virtual live events, but we also said, this is really a great time to be opening up our doors to explaining our formula to students so that they can go implement it on their own. So we created a 3-day live event called the Virtual Event on Virtual Events. It's a clever name. It says exactly what it is. It is a virtual event that teaches you the virtual event model. So it's very meta. You're experiencing the model at the same time you're learning the model. So we do that for 3 full days. And that program, I mean, we put thousands of students through that program. And I'm so pleased that we were able to do it because we unveiled the entire framework, the entire formula, the same exact structure that we use for Dean Graziosi, Jeff Walker, Matthew McConaughey, Amy Porterfield, Katie Hornor. I mean, you name it, people that are big names in our space that you've heard of and people that you've never heard of, people that are producing 5-figure, 6-figure, 7-figure events using our framework. So if that's something you'd like to learn about, if you'd like to have the kind of success that Katie has had, come join us for the virtual event on virtual events and figure out the framework and put it to work for you. You can have your very own purpose-driven payday.
Yeah. And you do these events a couple of times a year. So we're going to put the link and the dates and all the info in the show notes. There's even a coupon code if you want to get a special discount when you sign up for the event. So grateful to you all for providing that for our audience. And I'm so excited to see how many of the people listening to us today are going to jump in and be able to change the future of their business with adding this event strategy.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. And, here's the thing. I really believe we change the world one live event, one attendee at a time. And when I say we, I mean me and you. And I think of the ripple effect of live events. If I do my best work and share my formula with you, and then you go implement it, and then your people go do their best work, and then their people go do their best work, that is the ripple effect of the influencer industry, of what we can do by taking what we know, our zone of genius, and sharing it with the next person who then shares it with their person, who then shares it with their person. We really do change the world one live event, one attendee at a time. It's the fastest way to change your own personal wealth, to change the future of your family, and to change the industry that you most want to serve and the people that you most want to impact. There's a reason why the biggest names in the space use live events, because it really is the multiplier for a purpose-driven payday.
Yeah, I know it firsthand because I've experienced it. And again, so thankful to you all for seeing kind of that writing on the wall and taking the chance to pivot to virtual and creating this training for folks. So thank you again for being with us today, Bari, and for sharing your gifts with the world.
Thank you, Katie. I'm happy to be here. Delighted. And I just want your audience to remember something that that we talk about all the time. You can do this.
You can do this. And don't forget to check the show notes, guys, for that link. Get signed up for the next virtual event on virtual events with a coupon code courtesy of Bari. And we look forward to helping you get your message to the world because it matters. Somebody out there is waiting to hear your voice and your message so they can be fulfilled to do what they were created to do in the world too. We'll see you in the next episode.